Hey, welcome back to the BGX podcast. My guest today from 1 Minute Board Games is Raina. Raina, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on.
Hi, Phil. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, absolutely. Well, hey, let's get started off. I ask everybody to sort of introduce themselves and tell the audience kind of how you got into gaming.
Yes, so I got into hobby gaming when I started dating my partner, Phil. He had been into the hobby board gaming space for so much longer before he met me. And it's so funny because when we were first starting to get to know each other, he was like, "Oh, I play board games for fun." It's like, "Oh, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, do you want to see like my collection?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he just pulled up his board game geek account and he just like shoved his phone in my hand. And I was like, this is great, but I don't know what to do with all this information. I don't know what this means. But yeah, thankfully he introduced me to everything and I fell in love with it.
So, how long have you guys been together? Like, how long ago was that?
We have been together for about a little over 3 years now.
3 years. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. And so, obviously, since then, you've become quite an influential creator on social. So, tell me about making that transition from sort of being new to the hobby to, getting into influencer.
Sure. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So it was about when I started content creation, it was about a year and a half into our relationship, and thus a year and a half into when I started board gaming. And it was the middle of the pandemic, and I was just on TikTok as people my age are doing nowadays. And then I just thought, I don't really see like board game content on TikTok. That'd be kind of fun to just mess around and do. And then Phil was like, yeah, just do it. It'll be fun. And then it definitely like just took off and became something that I didn't even expect it to be. But it's also great because as a result of that I got way more into the hobby myself, because even at that point in time I loved playing board games, but I didn't really have my own taste. I would just play games that Phil had or games that his friends brought over, and then I started to learn what I liked. And yeah, it's been amazing.
That's awesome. What are some of the most memorable moments, since you've started doing that? What are those moments that stick out that you really remember?
Definitely the moments that stand out to me are just meeting the amazing people that I've met online in the last couple years. Gen Con, my first Gen Con last year with 2021 was pretty amazing because it was a really big convention. It was my first big one that I went to and I worked, and like just being able to meet everyone that I've been friends with. And more specifically, at PAX Unplugged last year, there was a gentleman who had came up to me and he had recognized me, which is always so surreal that people recognize you in public. And then he just said, I wanted to thank you so much, because it was amazing to see another, Filipino creator on TikTok, and just to see what you're doing for representation and being able to see myself in you has been really amazing. And so just comments like that will just stick with you forever.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's
Mhm.
incredible. So you've amassed a great following with obviously doing 1 minute board game reviews. Do you have any favorites as far as board games go that really stick out to you that, like if more games were like this game, that'd be great for the hobby?
Ooh, well, it's hard. There's so many games out there, like honestly and truly. And I think if it's any sort of game that I think I would want more of in the hobby, it's more games that feature like more women of color, people of color, just more marginalized communities, like front and center in their games. I would love more of that. In terms of games that I like, I really love just like engine building games. So my favorite board game of all time is Scythe.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. That's on my wish list right now. I'm desperately looking for a copy that doesn't cost $150. So I'm scouring. I'm hoping that I'm just going to get lucky and find one in a thrift store somewhere.
Uh-huh.
But I know that's extremely unlikely with that game.
Who knows? Who knows?
So talk to me about kind of any artists or designers that you see right now that you really enjoy, or who do you have your eyes on as far as that's you feel is putting out good content right now?
So I love Beth Sobel. I
Okay.
I think all the games that she illustrates for are beautiful and they're amazing. And anything that she illustrates or she does art for, I can immediately tell like that's Beth Sobel art. Additionally, I really love Ian O'Toole. I think that the great thing about his art and like his iconography is it is so incredibly intuitive, and I think it is probably the most intuitive that I've personally seen in the board game design space right now. So anything that he does art for, he designs for, I'm just like, yep, that's Ian O'Toole.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite game right now? I mean, if you had to pick a number one, or what's at least in your top 10?
Well, I definitely talked about Scythe. Scythe is in my top
Yeah.
10. I really love the Search for Planet X.
Okay.
I think it's a great deduction game, and it's like I like things that work my brain out a little bit, and I love games that allow me to feel a little clever. And so, like whenever you find Planet X before any, it's just like this rush of adrenaline. Like I can imagine, like yeah. And I like to consider myself an omni gamer for sure. I really love Calico as like a tile placement game. People say that it's really brain burny, but I enjoy it. And then yeah, those are like a few of my top
Yeah.
games that come to mind.
Yeah. That's awesome. So
Mhm.
obviously you play a lot with Phil, your boyfriend. What are some of your favorite kind of two-player games that you guys like to, share over a date night or something?
Ooh, we really love abstract strategy games. So
Okay.
anything that leans towards playing like chess, like War Chest, which is published by AEG, is one of our favorite games to play. It's really cool. It's like a bag building sort of like chess game. So like you're like building. You have like these four different troops that you're playing with, and you don't start with all the chips in your bag, but you gradually add them to your bag as you wish to build it.
Hmm.
And then so you got to pull them out and then play them, and that is always super fun to play. Also, War of the Ring. War of the Ring was one of our favorites. We don't get it to the table that often just because of how long it takes to set up and play.
Right.
But I think anything that we are just pitted head to head with, that we are trying to outsmart the other, is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's my wife and I too. We tried a couple of more cooperative games, or with not a lot of interaction, like Patchwork. There's a little bit of interaction, but it's not a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And she hated it. I mean, she was like, I didn't even beat you. Like, I won, but I didn't beat you. She
Uh-huh.
wanted to have that moment where she could kind of get in my way. And one of the casual games we love is Blockist, because it's just really lightweight and we can throw it on anytime and start playing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and she loves that one because she gets to get in front of all my pieces and block
I
me
know
from
it's a
doing
lot of
anything.
fun. It's more satisfying, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So what about other types of games? Are you into any RPGs or CCGs at all?
I haven't really dabbled into the RPG space. I think for me personally, it's a bit intimidating to get into if you're not already into that space. And I think that I would need the right people and the right environment to start playing those games in, that I don't think that I have right now, at least local to me. CCGs, Phil has gotten me into Netrunner. I think Netrunner
Okay.
is a really fun game. He tried getting me to play Legend of the Five Rings, which is a lot of fun too.
Hmm.
I played like Magic the Gathering Arena for a bit.
Yeah,
They're really fun to play, but I don't find myself returning to them.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I find with especially with CCGs, it's either you're like all in or you're not really in. Like
Yeah.
it's not one that you can sort of like, I'll just keep some magic cards on the shelf and play occasionally. Like I rarely find people who are like that. They're either they have 100 magic sets
Mhm.
or they don't have any, like
Yeah, exactly.
typically. So, well, let's talk about gateway games. I mean, obviously, you got into the hobby relatively recently. What were some of the games that really, helped you transition from sort of Monopoly and Sorry to what we know today as kind of
Mhm.
modern board games?
So my gateway game was Space Base, which is an
Okay.
amazing game designed by John D. Clare, published by AEG. And I think that that hooked me right away for sure. I don't know if I would use it as a gateway game for other people,
Okay.
um, but that was my personal one. But I think games that I do tend to use, because I have a lot of friends who aren't board gamers, but who see
Mm,
me do this board game stuff. I'm like, well, now we have to come over and play games.
right.
And it can kind of be a lot of pressure because you don't want, some players like conflict, some players don't, and you really have no idea until you play a game. But I love Ticket to Ride. I think is a great gateway game that I would use, as well as like Sushi Go, Sushi
Mhm.
Roll. Um, and yeah, those are a few that I definitely always gravitate towards when it comes to trying to bring my friends into the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you talk about the pressure. Like, I feel that pressure, especially when we have friends come over and they see the collection and it's like, oh, we should play a game. It's like, oh, let's hang for a few and like
Uh-huh.
let me fill out what kind of mood you're in first.
Yeah, and most people I have learned are definitely not auditory learners. Like, so they want to
Yes.
be there, they
Yes.
want to learn so badly, but you just start explaining the game and you just see the light leave their eyes, and it's rough on both parties because they
Yeah.
really want to listen and you really want them to listen, but something's just not clicking.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, and especially with any kind of game with a lot of rules. I mean, one of the ones I use a lot is Ticket to Ride, because it is pretty simple to explain. Like you can get through the rules in about a couple of minutes and like, okay, now let's just go, and you'll get it as we go. You're not going to fall behind in the first 3 rounds or anything. So obviously, you've grown your social media accounts to quite legendary size. What's your advice for people out there who are watching your rise and saying, man, I want to do that, I want to become an influencer of board game content or any kind of content? What's your advice to those folks?
I think my big advice, so my thing is, I believe, I don't know if this is the way that it has been before, because I've only been in the hobby for so long, but I feel that board game content is starting to become more personality based. I think that if you build an audience that really connects to you, that relates with you, that they're going to watch you do whatever you want to do. And so don't be afraid to put yourself out there, to put your face out there, to put your personality out there, and just be yourself and let people see that, because there are people out there who will, who will identify with you and who will like you. And that is super important. Also, it's important to just do it, which is such simple but really important advice, I would think. Just like, don't second guess it, just put out content. Don't try to be too much a perfectionist about it, because your content has to be, bad before it gets good. And you really just have to be willing to go through those growing pains. And then also just learn when to take a step back. I think that's something that I have really gotten good at, because I balance so many things, and I love doing this. I love content creation, but I don't make it my end all be all. If I find myself getting super burnt out, I have no problem taking a step back for a few days and just not feeling guilty about it. Because honestly, your audience probably won't notice that you're taking a break for a few days or even a week, because thankfully there's so many other amazing content creators out there to keep them busy in the meantime.
Right. Right. Yeah. I sometimes see the videos from creators and they're like, sorry, I haven't posted in 2 days. And it's like, I wouldn't have noticed unless you said something. So, I definitely feel that, about the sort of beating yourself up about, oh, I didn't post anything this weekend and I got to get back on track. And I totally agree with you. Just pace yourself and take your time is so important. Something else you said was really about, people will find you and enjoy watching you do whatever it is that you want to do. I think that's one of the great unlocks of especially TikTok, but all social media, but TikTok's really been prolific with that. It's, I love watching TikToks of anybody doing anything they're passionate about. Like there's a TikToker who does septic and well services.
Oh.
But you can just tell that he loves running his business and operating his business. And like, I have no interest in septic and well service at all, but I will watch this guy all day long. Like, he's just interesting to watch, and it's interesting to watch him do what he does. So, yeah, I totally agree. Just start and just put yourself out there with whatever your thing is. Don't try to appeal to what everybody else is trying to do. Just do your thing,
100%.
So talk to me about what you do when you're not content creating. What's your IRL, Raina, like?
Yes, so I am a full-time nursing student right now. It's funny. I actually started school the same time I started my account. I don't think that that is, I didn't start my account because I started school, but it's just a fun coincidence.
Right.
It is an accelerated nursing program, so it's really intense, and that's why I find myself, it's been difficult trying to learn how to juggle the two. But I do graduate in August of this year, which is about 4 months away. So that's super exciting.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And I have been, before I used to also work a little bit as a chiropractic assistant. Fortunately, with the way that my page or my 1 minute board games has been going, I was able to quit that job and just focus on content creation. And so, yeah, between that and school, it's full time, baby.
Yeah. So after you graduate, what's your plan? Obviously, when you started nursing school, it was probably to become a nurse, but now you've got these giant social media accounts. I mean, is there any thought about what you want to do after you graduate?
Yeah, so right now I'm graduating with my associates. And so the plan is I graduate, I immediately get a job, I go back and get my bachelor's online, and I'm still going to do content creation stuff on the side. The great thing about nursing is, with the 12-hour shifts, you work 3 12s a week, essentially. Right. And that's if I want to be full time. So that leaves like 4 other days for me to do whatever I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It's important to find that balance too, and, kind of keep everything going. So cool. Awesome. Well, Raina, if somebody wants to find you online, I'm sure they won't have to look far, but where can they find more of your content if they're interested?
Sure. So all of my content can be found on my TikTok, which is tiktok.com/1minute board games. If you're not on TikTok, that is totally cool. I try to cross post most of my stuff onto my Twitter, which is 1min board games, because 1 minute board games, I guess, was too long. And that's where I'm mainly active.
Gotcha. TikTok and Twitter. Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, Raina, I really appreciate you being on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you and meet you, and looking forward to hopefully, seeing you in person at one of these gaming conventions coming up.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Phil.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.